if you're a student who's maybe a first-time student going into an art store for the first time, it can be a daunting thing because there's so much to choose from. First and foremost, at Opus Art Supplies, there's incredible staff, very knowledgeable and very friendly. And that's one of the things I love about Opus, and one of the things I love about sending my students over to Opus. I just feel like they're in good hands over there. There's a real sense of community. Hi, I'm Justin Ogilvie. I'm a Vancouver-based artist and co-founder of Canvas Method here in Vancouver, British Columbia. For beginner level students taking oil painting classes, we always provide a materials list, and on that list will be more or less, we would consider it a limited supply list, so you're not spending a lot of money. And it's basically, you're gonna get some brushes, some colors, some paints, and then you'll have some surfaces like canvas or panel to work on top of. Acrylics are almost identical. The only difference, of course, is that you're working with the acrylic paints versus the oil paints. But the colors are the exact same, the brushes are interchangeable, and the surfaces are identical. We're in a very lucky time to be artists. There's so much to choose from, which can be overwhelming. So when you go to art stores, they'll have what are considered to be student grade level materials, as well as professional grade. The professional grade are more expensive, they perform much better. And then, of course, the student grades are less expensive, and they don't perform as well. So what we try to do is find a midline. We don't want our students starting with student level paints because there's sometimes some compromises that happen along the way in the pictures. When you're working with, say, student grade paints, these are the ones that when you go to the store, they're surprisingly cheap. What happens in general with color, for example, is you can have two colors that mix well. So let's say you have a red and a yellow and you're making an orange. And the moment you bring a third color in, instead of mixing to that next color, what we often see is the color gets compromised on the way to the third color, and it heads toward what we call mud. Whereas when you're working with sort of middle of the line and high-end brands, you can mix 4, 5, sometimes 6 colors all in certain sequences, and your colors aren't compromised at all. It's the same thing with brushes. So if you're painting with really cheap brushes, sometimes the hairs will come out and they sit in your painting, which can be very frustrating. And of course, when you work with the higher end ones, there's no issues with that. So we really encourage students to not go to the cheapest because you're gonna have a hard time working and it compromises your learning, and to just get something in the middle. And you'll have these pigments, like when it comes to the paints, a lot longer because a little pigment goes a longer way. Whereas the less expensive stuff, you have to keep pouring it out. The Opus Essential products are actually pretty bang on for what we would consider to be a beginning level student all the way up to the intermediate level. They're professional grade pigments, and then they're just on the lower, more affordable side, and they perform really well. Same thing with all the Opus brand brushes. I've always used them over the years. I keep going back to them. So for me, that's a good sign that they perform as a professional would want them to perform. When it comes to the Opus brand brushes, there's 4 types that I love using in both my acrylic and oil paintings. First and foremost is the Arietta. I find that this is a synthetic nylon hair that when it comes to blending and blurring, say for example in realistic portraiture, I find that the flats and the larger flats in particular are really, really wonderful for that approach. Blending and blurring with these is the most expensive approach with other brands. So if I try to buy an equivalent brush in another brand, I'm paying sometimes 3 times as much. And I find these perform just as good, if not better. So I could not be happier than I am with these Ariettas. When it comes to pushing the paint around, say for example, if I want a painting to have a lot of tooth, a lot of texture, to have a painterliness, something like Claude Monet's Impressionism or something, I find these Fortissimos are amazing. They're a hog's hair bristle, so they have that rougher bristle, and it really picks up the paint well and deposits it well. And I don't have to go back to the palette a lot. I find that it really holds into the brush hairs really, really well. And that's one of the features that's distinct with hog's bristle, is that it holds the paint longer than nylon. And the cost efficiency of these is also really good. There's a lot of other brands that make similar products, but sometimes 2 or 3 times more money. So I find myself over and over buying these Fortissimos. If I'm looking to use a similar approach where it's almost like in the beginning of the painting where I just want to like hammer down the paint, throw it around, and it doesn't require delicate brushwork, but I don't want it to be as rough and choppy as the Fortissimo. I'll use these blue-handled ones, the Legato. So this is a nylon hair, synthetic hair, and so it's a little bit more delicate, but it's not as delicate as the Arietta, right? So this is a softer bristle, and this is just a little bit medium hardness, I would say. And then when it comes to the hardest of the Denman is a very hard bristle, and I love using these Denmans. This is a smaller brush, obviously. It's a 1/4 inch angle shape. And in moments when I require absolute precision, for me, there's no brush on the market that's better. I shop around with all the different brands, and I keep using, this is actually one of the brushes I buy most, is the 1/4 inch angle from Denman. Synthetic hair, very, very, very hard bristle, which means I'm gonna get a clean, distinct mark that's very graphic and clear. I love this stuff when I'm doing details. Traditional approach is that you use the knife not for the painting itself, but just to mix colors on your palette, right? And now a lot of more contemporary approaches in the last 150 years, they started using the palette knife to make marks in the painting, which is a really distinct mark from a brush. And there's a whole world of potential there. And so one instance where you might want to bring the palette knife into a painting is when you want to have more texture. So when you use a palette knife, you're essentially caking on the paint. And not only is it opaque, but it becomes what's called impasto, which is to say it's not just covering, but it's becoming like a relief sculpture. It's coming out in front of the surface, so it's building up. And so it'll catch light in a different way, and it'll also cover over top of any imagery that's underneath it. And so it's really bold, it's very expressive, and it's like anything in life. If you do it too much, it doesn't work. So just the right balance. So I would say anytime you want things to come forward, palette knife is really powerful. But again, like, good luck, right? If you go shopping for palette knives, it's like, which one? There's like how many on the market, different sizes and shapes. And that's what's so great. It's exciting. It's overwhelming on the one hand, but if you just get a bunch of them and start experimenting, it's super fun, super fun. When it comes to surfaces, you can buy canvases that are pre-primed, and sometimes you have like raw canvas or raw panels. So we usually recommend our students buy the ones that are already pre-primed. It's more convenient, and that convenience is really important because it helps you get to the process quicker. And in certain classes, we'll actually ask you to put down another layer or two of gesso, so that the surface is not super absorbent. When it comes to applying gesso, say at home, it's really simple. Obviously, you need an area where you can make a little bit of a mess. Just lay out a big piece of cardboard is fine, or some plastic. And then usually like a 2-inch, 3-inch, or a 4-inch, we call them chip brushes, or even just like a cheap house brush is fine, as long as the hairs aren't falling out. And then you're just applying the gesso, and some approaches have it so that you do one layer horizontal brush strokes, and then you do vertical brush strokes, and you allow it to dry 100% in between the layers. And some people will suggest to do a light sanding of the surface so you don't have too much of the kind of brush tracks left behind. Other people actually like that texture and might even exaggerate that. So again, there's so many different approaches. Personally, I like a little bit of texture, so I'm not too shy to put down thick layers of gesso. And sometimes I'll do 2 or 3 layers before I start the painting. At Canvas Method, we actually keep it really simple with mediums. So for example, if you can imagine you're starting a painting and the paint's being applied to the surface, but it's not really moving around very well. Maybe the surface is a little absorbent, which gessoed surfaces usually are. You would need a little medium to open it up. Now, some teachers and painters like to just use a little bit of odorless mineral spirits if you're working in oils, so the solvents, then that just kind of thins it out. And the equivalent to that would be in acrylics, just taking a little water and thinning your paint out. So the water acts like a medium with acrylics, which is free, and then the solvents acts like mediums for oils. And then when it gets into the later stages of a painting, you don't want to keep thinning your paint out that much. And moments where you do use mediums, we tend to just use a little bit of linseed oil to make sure. So we'll mix 50-50 linseed oil and odorless mineral spirits. You kind of mix it into a soup, and then you just bring your brush into that once in a while. So at Canvas Method, we keep mediums really simple. The easiest way to paint is to stay out of your mediums. Just use the pigment. The pigment already is ready to go, and you just got to thin it out a little bit. One last exception would be in certain classes that are more creative, and some of our portrait level classes, we do glazing techniques. So that's where you need to thin out the paint so that you can see the image through the paint. So if I want to tint my nose a little red, I'll use a little bit of solvent or a little bit of medium, so like a 50-50 linseed oil with odorless mineral spirits mixture. I'll take that mixture, thin out my red paint, and just give myself a little bit of a suntan on my nose, for example, or reddish cheeks. So other than that, when it comes to mediums, we keep it really, really simple. When it comes to doing sketch work in a pad of paper, I love using the Opus mixed media paper. They have a variety of sizes, and I think my favorite to travel with, say if I'm going for a trip somewhere, I'll bring all my materials, and I use the mixed media Opus brand paper pads that are about 11 by 14 inches. I find those are excellent. And I can use gouache, watercolor, ink, charcoal. I can use a whole bunch of materials on it. And because the paper is a little heavier, it doesn't buckle, right? And I find that is probably one of for me, the go-to materials of my lifetime. I always sketching, always drawing, no matter where I go. I'm always doing it in the studio. If I go to a coffee shop or if I'm going to Vancouver Island for a holiday, I'm always bringing my sketchbook around, and that Opus mixed media paper is just second to none. The ring-bound sketchbooks are excellent as well. I find them, first of all, they're cost efficient. If you look at identical products from different brands, they're much more expensive. So if I'm looking for a middle of the road paper, so it's not thick and heavy like mixed media paper, but it's not as flimsy as something like printing paper, something in the middle where I can still work out ideas, maybe write some notes, and I can still get down inks. I can use a mixed media approach, but as soon as I get water in there, the paper might buckle a little bit, and a little bit of buckling's fine. But yeah, I do find that those sketchbooks are wonderful. I have them all the time. I have like 3 or 4 going at the same time. When you're a beginner level drawing student and you go to a store and you see one of these tin containers full of pencils, and you get 20 or 30 different pencils in there, and you have like 9B, 8B, 7B, all the way down to B, and then you get all your HBs and your 2H, 3H, 4H. Basically, you're getting a full spectrum of all these different levels of hardness and softness. In general, the Bs are softer, of course, and the Hs are harder. So in general, the Bs are more expressive, and they're good for like loose, more painterly approaches. And when you want precision, almost like a graphic designer, you would use the Hs. So in general, if you're having to buy 1 or 2 pencils and that's it, you would get like a 2B is a perfect way to go. And if you want to have a second or third pencil, you can get maybe a 4B or a 6B. So you have that thicker, more expressive option. And then moments when you want to be a bit more precise, I wouldn't go all the way to 9H. I would say like 2H or 3H. And then that just gives you those moments of precision. So you just need like one of each, right? So maybe one in the middle, like HB, or I would do 2B, and then 6B and 2H, something like that. If you come into Canvas Method and it's your first time being there, you'll be kind of wowed. We have like large 12-foot ceilings, and the room is absolutely jam-packed full of artwork. A lot of our instructors have artworks everywhere in all the different genres, whether it be portraiture, still life, landscape. And yeah, it's a very inspiring environment, and we put a lot of heart and energy into building a nice space that we can consider like a home away from home for artists to come in and get creative. The question of intimidation is a real thing for many, many people. And I would say that you could think of Canvas Method first and foremost as a very welcoming community. We don't have elitism. There's not a sense of being better or worse. And one of the ethics that we teach is that a lot of our approaches is all levels. If you're focused on being competitive with people, it just won't happen in the atmosphere. It's just not part of the culture there, because the teachers don't believe that and the students aren't interested in it. And there's a real commitment to passion and to curiosity and to experimentation, but also to like learning. And so I would say there's very much a beginner's mindset where people are more interested in being humble and open rather than, egotistical and comparative. Because our teachers, again, are great artists, but they're also great teachers, which is to say they care about you. They care about you learning the techniques so that you can be free to have fun and to create. That's essential. That's essential to what we teach. And that's why I think if you're intimidated, just be okay with being intimidated. Come on in and just watch it dissipate. It won't stick around.
A huge thanks to Justin Ogilvie for walking us through some of the materials a new student might come across. Hopefully this video helped take a bit of the mystery out of all those tubes, brushes and mediums, and showed how the right tools can really support your creative flow. Still have questions? Don't worry. Whether you're popping into one of our stores or chatting with us online, the team at Opus is friendly, knowledgeable, and genuinely passionate about helping you find what you need. And if you're hungry for more tips, demos, or inspiration, check out our YouTube channel. It's packed with great content. Thanks for watching.